Hi everyone, and thank you for joining the webinar. This is Olga from Elcomsoft company, the company that provides IT security software mostly for law enforcement and corporate security departments. Our tools help investigators and security officers perform desktop, mobile, and cloud forensics with ease and a little bit of comfort. Today I'm going to talk about cloud acquisition of Apple and Google accounts. There is already a lot of information in clouds. Some sources estimated over 1 exabyte, so today it's probably the most valuable source for both private and business data, including passwords, documents, photos, geolocations, etc. With Apple iCloud users in the amount of 850 million out of 925 million active iPhones and 1.5 billion Apple device users, we can see that cloud usage is very high. Google already has 1.5 billion active Gmail accounts, along with 2.5 billion active Android devices. Both Apple and Google offer storage up to 2 terabytes per account. It can be used to store media files like photos, videos, screenshots in iCloud Photo Library or Google Photos, passwords in iCloud Keychain, and various documents in Google Drive or Gmail, and so on. Apple offers first 5 gigs for free, while Google offers 15 gigs for free for a start. And according to one cloud storage company, not Google, Google is considered the most easily available cloud provider on the market. We in Elcomsoft think that today cloud acquisition in most cases returns overwhelmingly more data than other methods. And our task is to find the way how to get that effectively and fast. What are the issues for Apple and Google mobile platforms? And actually, not only for Apple and Google, but for any other vendor providing cloud services. One of the major problems is that in order to get there and download the data from cloud, you need the proper credentials. That is login and password or authentication token. Moreover, different data categories may have different types of protection in the cloud. Nevertheless, cloud acquisition has very important advantages compared with other types of data acquisition. You don't have to have physical access to the device. Data acquisition can be performed silently. It allows you to get the real-time data of the suspect, but the main technical advantage is that it is almost platform independent. For example, for Google, there are thousands of devices and cloud works for all of them. Cloud acquisition also helps to bypass such problems as when the device has a screen lock passcode, and passcode is strong and cannot be cracked in reasonable time. It also helps to bypass hardware-based encryption or enhanced encryption for sensitive data like passwords, and of course if device is broken, wiped, or just absent. It is really important to understand that cloud is not something just huge. There are several ways for keeping data in the cloud. Devices may create their backups in the cloud, either full or partial backups. At the same time, applications can create their own proprietary backups as well. Both devices and applications also synchronize some information between the cloud and several devices. And finally, cloud can be used just as file storage for almost anything. What is in the cloud that we can get? Almost everything that is stored on the device, including the internet activities, call logs, SMS, messages, internet browsing histories, photos, videos, location histories, and even more than that. Apple iCloud allows creating the complete device backup, there is nothing comparable with it among other platforms. And it is not just one device connected to one account. There can be very many devices, including iPhones, iPads, iWatches, MacBooks, and Mac computers. They also have data synchronization for syncing data between the devices and the cloud. And again, file storage for files and documents. Speaking of Google, some kind of backups are being created in the cloud, but they don't contain very valuable information, and it's not their strongest point. Google is using cloud mostly for data synchronization, and there we find lots and lots of valuable information. They collect it from everywhere, including not only Android devices and wearables, but also devices with Google services on it. Full device backups are not always available because people can disable creating cloud backups and create just the local ones. Often, cloud backups do not contain the backup data of some particular applications. Cloud backups are usually created not so frequently. It can be once a day or even less often. Vendors do not provide methods to get information from the cloud. The data is often stored on third-party services with very slow access. iCloud backups usually are huge, difficult to access, contain a lot of unnecessary information, while Google Cloud backups are, on the contrary, super small and useless. Also, iCloud backups exclude some types of data when syncing is enabled. The situation with data synchronization is much more interesting. The main advantage of this information is that it's being synced almost in real time, making it real-time evidence. We can get browsing history, passwords, login credentials, mail, contacts, SMS, messages, and so on and so forth. However, iOS and Android platforms work in different ways. Let's see. Google provides more sync data than other vendors, while Apple constantly adds more and more data to sync in the cloud. Advantages of synced data include the following. Usually syncing is enabled by default, and quite often users do not disable it. Deleted data is available for data categories. Documents or pictures are available for up to 30 days. This is also a reason why real-time availability is important. Also, sync data has weaker protection compared to cloud backups, which makes it easier to get, for example, file vault recovery keys with less effort. Finally, and sometimes most important, is that sync data can provide current location of the user. Many applications use cloud to store data remotely. For example, WhatsApp is secure enough thanks to end-to-end encryption, which makes even intercepted messages impossible to decrypt. However, WhatsApp can create a lot of different backups. And apart from local backups, WhatsApp can produce two backups in iCloud. One in iCloud device backup, and second would be its own proprietary backup in iCloud Drive. Acquisition of the first one requires Apple ID and password, as well as access to the second authentication factor, while the acquisition of the other WhatsApp own backup requires just the authentication token for accessing photos and videos, and security code for text decryption if you need them as well. A backup is good for getting chats that have been already deleted on the device. You might have heard about the recent case with the Dutch politician Thierry Baudet and pro-Russian Ukrainian politician Vladimir Kornilov. I'm not going to talk about their business relations, but the whole situation came into media when the Dutch media found their WhatsApp communications from 2016. Obviously, it was some kind of backup. I'm not sure which one, but it's just a very good illustration that backups can be also important thanks to their data preservation ability. And WhatsApp is the messenger that creates a lot of backups. What is special about Apple Forensics? Apple does not own the servers that store their users' data. iCloud backups, photos, messages, and even passwords are kept on third-party servers owned by Amazon, Microsoft, Google, AT&T, and the Chinese government for Chinese residents. While the encryption keys are always stored on Apple's own servers in Cupertino, the keys never go to Apple's partners or the Chinese government unless serving a legal request. Thus, first, Apple has full access to encrypted information as the company has both the data and the encryption keys. Second, Apple can decrypt the data and pass it along to law enforcement upon legal request. And third, someone with proper authentication credentials can access both the data and the encryption keys, thus retrieving and decrypting the backup. Our foremost recommendation when doing iCloud forensics is asking Apple to provide all the information they can. And second step would be checking all the devices and credentials that are available, including Windows computers that can provide tokens for accessing iCloud, if iCloud for Windows is installed. Acquisition of the Apple iCloud data is not very easy. The protocols are kept in secret, there are no libraries. All the data in iCloud is encrypted in different ways. The need to supply the user's login and password, sometimes followed by two-factor authentication, was always a roadblock. Some 6 years ago, we learned how to use authentication tokens to access iCloud backups without a password. During the next years, we'll learn how to use authentication tokens to access other types of data stored in iCloud, including users' photo, library, browsing history, contacts, calendars, and other information that Apple synchronizes across all of the user's devices that are signed into the same account. Many things have changed since then, protection and encryption everywhere. Tokens can no longer be used to access iCloud backups and many other types of important data. So, what can you obtain from the user's iCloud account with an authentication token? And what can be accessed with login and password? Or with access to a secondary authentication factor? Let's find it out. For us, Apple is a moving target because they are changing protocols quite often. Once they detect abnormality, for example, when data is downloaded not during the normal restore process, but by the third-party software, they prevent us from doing that. Or they can change data protection, for instance, to securely protect iCloud backup Keychain, not to be confused with iCloud Keychain. Two-factor authentication effectively protects data in the cloud, and there is not enough to have login and password. You also need to have the second factor, which can be an actual trusted device or just the phone number to receive SMS. In Apple's environment, two-factor authentication affects everything. If the user enables two-factor authentication on their account, they gain a range of abilities that aren't available for accounts without two-factor authentication. For example, one can instantly reset their Apple ID password from their iPhone using just the passcode. Forensic experts find a few other features useful when it comes to two-factor authentication. Only accounts with two-factor authentication can do the following. First, sync passwords through iCloud. Second, sync messages. Third, sync health data. And also sync screen time data, and recently also sync Apple Maps. In a way, two-factor authentication is a blessing for the law enforcement because accounts with two-factor authentication sync more information through iCloud compared to unprotected accounts. Apple claims there are 75% of their users who use two-factor authentication. We think it's a little bit exaggerated, but it can be very close. Passing the two-factor authentication prompt can be as simple as obtaining the user's SIM card and using it on another device to receive a text message with the one-time code. Alternatively, one can use Authentication Token to skip the two-factor prompt altogether. It's easier to get the synchronized data than cloud backups, and the data is synchronized almost in real time. Synced information is pushed to Apple servers just minutes after the corresponding activity has taken place. The advantage of obtaining synced data is that most people, even those who disable iCloud backups, they keep synchronizing other data because very often it's turned on by default and they don't bother to turn it off. So more and more data are stored in iCloud by means of sync. And once uploaded, synced data can be retained for months and months with no option for the end user to clear the data. Synchronized records can be obtained for extended periods of time, much longer than available on iOS devices and device backups. Both existing and deleted records are obtained. iCloud Photo Library is also an excellent storage of information. It's not just pictures. Most of the pictures taken with smartphone camera contain EXIF data, including location data with exact GPS latitude and longitude, which makes it a very good evidence. How to access sync data and skip the two-factor authentication if you don't have the second factor. The alternative approach of obtaining the data from the cloud if two-factor authentication is enabled is using an authentication tokens. They are always available in the device itself if we manage to perform logical or physical acquisition. And in most cases, they are available on the computer, Mac or Windows PC, that is connected to the same cloud account. We can even extract them from Apple TV. The token actually has more value than login and password because there will be no need for the second factor. For accounts without two-factor, the token can be used as a limited replacement for the login and password. For such accounts, some data will only be downloaded from iCloud with a real login and password. In iCloud, there is synced data which has stronger protection, like Keychain messages, health data, and so on. If you manage to get into the iCloud Keychain, you can get passwords to users' services, credit cards, more authentication tokens, for example, for social networks, and so on. There are also Wi-Fi access points, maps, and everything about the internet activities, and Safari. iCloud Keychain is rather difficult to get. It uses additional encryption and it's not enough to have login and password as well as second factor. iCloud Keychain can be accessed only by trusted devices. If you don't have the trusted device, the only way you can get is to provide the passcode to one of the trusted devices. This way we create something like a virtual device in the circle of trust. Once we get there, we can extract all the iCloud Keychain data, such truly forensic extraction of protected keychain records can be made with Elcomsoft Phone Breaker. Health data can be critical evidence of heart rate of the suspect at the particular time. It also includes exact location points, walking and running distances with exact timestamps. Significantly more evidence is available if the user wears a health kit compliant device, such as Apple Watch with GPS or a third-party fitness tracker like, for example, Fitbit or else. Native Apple Health data is synced with iCloud to all registered devices. Storing iMessage and SMS in iCloud is only possible with two-factor authentication enabled. They often contain photo attachments with EXIF and geolocation data. And Apple Maps may contain a lot of location points of those who use it. In an ideal world, to obtain all the data from the user's iCloud account, you will need the Apple ID and the password and the secondary authentication factor and the device passcode. If you have all those, you can obtain virtually everything, including some of the data that is not available on the device itself. Geolocation data can provide evidence during an investigation. Location data can help to reconstruct the crime scene in a given time frame. Emergency response services use geolocation to locate and rescue people in danger. Taxi and delivery services use geolocation to improve their service. There are many more examples where location evidence is vital. Recently, governments are considering using geolocation data to help identify and isolate infected citizens. Multiple sources of location evidence may be available in iCloud account. Location data may be found in calendar events, iMessage attachments, and send location messages, in maps and system logs, in fitness and text applications. Geolocation is one of the most important EXIF tags. We can automatically extract location data from all available sources, so-called aggregated locations, and map the locations with Google Maps. The ability to map GPS coordinates extracted from multiple sources can become extremely handy during investigations. Also, there is quite a lot of data in the cloud drive. And it's not just the document storage. Other applications are using iCloud Drive intensively for example, password managers such as 1Password or InPass, instant messengers like WhatsApp, Viber, Line, and so on. Also, file folders from a synced Mac such as desktop, documents, and trash can be extracted. Some of this data, mostly documents, is available using the iCloud feature on Windows and macOS systems, but most files are only accessible using Elcomsoft Phone Breaker. Please note that there is no email notification sent by Apple when you are downloading file documents from iCloud. These are our tools for iCloud Forensics, and you are more than welcome either to try the free demo versions downloadable from the website, or you can get a full-time limited version if you send us an email request. Google Forensics. Google Cloud Forensics is an emerging area to forensic experts and IT security officers. The amount of data generated by consumers using many online Google services is hard to underestimate. Remember the 1.5 billion Gmail accounts? There are also over 5 billion mobile installs for Google Chrome. This data can be extremely valuable for an investigation of criminal cases and security breaches of IT infrastructure. Online services are increasingly used by consumers, including those of a criminal kind. Cloud service providers such as Google retain astonishing amounts of data that literally follow their users' every step. Acquiring this evidence from cloud storage services can be a challenge. Viewing, discovering, and analyzing the data may be another challenge when doing it without special tools. Google collects data from multiple sources, ranging from a plethora of both Android and non-Android devices to a variety of applications. There is Chrome syncing internet history, open tabs and forms, Gmail, Photos, Google Drive, and so on. There are different Android devices backups, and our aim is to download everything what's in there, and we have done it to 99%. Google Takeout is free but rather limited instrument. Many data get duplicated, which slows down data export and makes data analysis more difficult and ineffective. More than that, Takeout leaves many traces and alerts its owners about data export by sending an email. We can extract more data from Google account than is available from Google Takeout, make it faster and forensically sound. We can also extract information from Google Dashboard. It is available online, but it doesn't get into Google Takeout. And there is quite a lot like activities during the last 28 days, including locations, new apps and sites, YouTube activities, search history, and so on. In order to access Google data, you must supply the correct Google ID and password. Since many users protect access to their accounts with two-step verification, access to the second authentication factor is also required if it's enabled. The good news is that we support most two-factor authentication methods implemented by Google, including 6-digit codes generated by the Authenticator app or delivered as text messages to a trusted phone number, printable backup codes, Google Prompt, and FIDO key authentication. The password and two-factor authentication are the biggest challenges in cloud extraction. So, we also offer passwordless authentication based on using binary authentication tokens extracted from the user's computer. Passwordless authentication enables access to the following data categories like Chrome, including browsing history, bookmarks, and passwords, calendars, dashboard, history, Google Drive, and Hangouts. Our tool automatically searches the user's computer for authentication tokens saved by the Google Chrome browser. Once the user signs into their Google account in a browser session, these tokens enable seamless access to Google services without the need to re-enter the password. Google Chrome is the most popular web browser in the world, thanks to its presence on Windows and Mac computers, iPhones and Android smartphones, where it is installed by default. Passwords stored in the user's Google account are automatically synchronized across devices and Chrome instances that are signed into the same account. We can download Chrome data from the account and export everything to an Excel spreadsheet. Now, accessing the user's social networks, chats, and online shopping accounts may provide essential evidence, but please remember that you can always try these passwords for a dictionary attack against password-protected files with strong encryption, where pure brute force doesn't actually work, like Microsoft Office documents, archives, and encrypted volumes. Finally, we've come to the most interesting point: Google locations. In the Google Cloud, hundreds and thousands of coordinate points are stored, allowing to reconstruct the full history of users' movements and activities collected by Android devices. Google collects and stores this data for many years unless the user clears the location history manually in Google Maps timeline. Location data can be extracted from the following sources: Google Location History, including routes and places. It is a major source for geolocation data. Location history is represented in raw geolocation data that Google collects from various sources like GPS sensor, mobile networks, Wi-Fi access points, and so on, including timestamps, but excluding street addresses or business names, like cafes and restaurants. For that, Google has routes and places, which is more convenient to use. There is also Google Fit, which estimates physical activity data based on the periodic polling of the built-in step counter and location tracking. Location points are then stored in the user's Google account under the Google Fit category, separately from the main location history. There are also photos that also have geolocation data. However, Google does not offer accessing geolocation tags if you are using Google Photos API. We recommend retrieving Google Photos through a legal request, which makes Google return full EXIF metadata, including geolocation tags. I also want to dwell a little bit on the current situation with COVID spreading around the world and how our tools can help to improve the situation, help governments and law enforcement to find the fast track to getting things resolved. How? For example, let's compare the situation in the Czech Republic and South Korea. In the Czech Republic, the authorities were considering switching from just quarantine to smart quarantine. The smart quarantine presupposes installing and using some sort of smart quarantine system, which would be a mobile application, to track the movements of infected citizens. The installed applications would use data from mobile phones and payment cards of people who have been tested COVID positive to find all the potential people that could be infected as a result. However, some legal issues took place. The monitoring system requires consent of the citizens. Tracked citizens will have to give their agreement to be monitored by the government. The similar system has been implemented in the South Korea, where they developed an application called Corona 100M that collects information and alerts the user if they come within 100 meters of the location visited by someone who had a COVID positive. In the app, users can also see the date a patient was confirmed with the disease, demographic data about the person, and that's important, some of their location history. They use this application and manage to faster improve the whole situation and decrease the spread of pandemic. The Czech Republic does not have the application yet, and what's more important, there is no legal framework for such projects. Some Czech authorities claimed they have no right to force people install the software and use it. And it's very likely that citizens will refuse to do it voluntarily. This is how our tools can help the situation. Most smartphones, both Android and iOS devices, have an option to save most visited places. Android devices should have it turned on by default in order to improve their maps and so on, so that users and third-party applications would quickly find those places that are most used by the device owner. What's important, the smartphone does not just sporadically log location points in a given period of time. No, the user should stay in certain location for some fixed minimal time to produce this time log. our Cloud Explorer can access these logs and extract location points. So in a situation when these location points are required, we can get them, of course, by using login and password. The legal question is still there, and there are different views in different countries. When the country is in this state of emergency, citizens would have to provide their credentials when asked for by law enforcement. In this situation, you just use the provided credentials and acquire the necessary location data, not only from maps but also from EXIF files, shopping addresses, etc. This software will help to locate users' activities and save more people from getting affected by this pandemic. With Elcomsoft Cloud Explorer, it's very easy and convenient to process Google's location history, routes and places, as well as Google Feed data in order to extract, view and analyze data, as well as create very useful reports. I would like to quickly demonstrate Elcomsoft Cloud Explorer just to show how it works and extract the data from Google account together with you. Let's start the program. I'd like to show everything from the very beginning just to illustrate that we do support different types of credentials. In order to add the data snapshot for the first time, I have to enter my login and password, as well as provide the security code if two-step verification is enabled. But I've already logged in with my credentials and the program saved them and created a token for faster logging in. This option is recommended. Again, as you can see, there are various categories like dashboard, chats, media, locations, and so forth. While my Google account data, including my Chrome password, are being downloaded, which will take some time, I want to again tell you how you can use the found passwords apart from just trying them for relevant users' accounts. Of course, in those accounts you will find a lot of relevant for the investigation information like communications, airline accounts and boarding passes, online shopping stores, delivery services, online bank accounts, and so on and so forth. However, once you get quite a number of passwords belonging to the same user, it would be very smart to build a custom dictionary based on these real passwords of the user. Analyzing the passwords and trying to understand the pattern that the user might have used is a good thing, but even smarter would be constructing a custom dictionary by extracting all sensible dictionary words from the passwords and adding them into a text file. Then you can simply feed it to password recovery software like Elcomsoft Distributed Password Recovery in order to use this custom dictionary against password-protected files with strong encryption, like which is used in latest versions of Microsoft Office documents or crypto containers, protected by FileVault or PGP, Veracrypt or BitLocker, and so on. That's the encryption which is very hard to break today if you don't have the dedicated workstations with multiple graphics cards or other dedicated hardware-based acceleration. This is why using such smart attacks by implementing dictionaries based on users' personal information and also adding mutations that are common for the user, it would be a very cost-effective solution if you don't want to invest into hardware improvements. Also, there are more ways to get Chrome passwords, including not only cloud but also local sources. And though it's not our topic today, but since we are talking about Chrome passwords, it would be also worth mentioning that our tool, Elcomsoft Internet Password Breaker, can instantly extract passwords from the password manager LastPass that is integrated into Chrome browser. You can find more info in our blog in the article Breaking LastPass, Instant Unlock of the Password Vault. Now that we've managed to retrieve some data that I have, I warned you that I don't have much in my account, but we can see some data in Chrome. Let's check them first. Here's my Facebook password, not the real one. It's old since I don't use Chrome browser that often. Some forms and also page transitions. Let's go back to check some other categories. Let's go to calendar. These are some events, and search by keyword. We can type in a contact that we are interested in and check what we have on it. Now the tool can also create reports or just export data, either by checking some particular data categories or by checking all of them and selecting the required time frame. You can also extract Google Drive files, where would be more third-party apps data, by using login and password or authentication token, which is more recommended. These are our tools for Google Forensics, and again, I invite you to try a free demo version to each of them, downloadable from the website, or you can get a full time limited version if you send us an email request. The whole bundle includes these tools for cloud forensics, but not only them. It also contains tools for physical and logical data acquisition. Thank you again for your attention. Please send me your questions at olga@elcomsoft.com. I'll be happy to answer your questions individually, and I encourage you to visit our blog for more detailed information and to connect with us in Twitter or other social networks.